Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. How are we all feeling? What a great three-game win streak on home ice nonetheless. The Utah Hockey Club has unlocked that another gear you need as the season progresses. Another gear is going to have to get unlocked just after on the trade deadline day next week. But man, Utah has really put a statement that they're not going to go away quietly, and they are in this wild card playoff race. If you didn't see my does Utah have a chance to make the playoffs video I did about a week ago during the Four Nations, watch that, because all these underlying numbers are starting to surface, and we're starting to see three straight dominant performances by Utah. They're starting to find their identity on the ice, even though off the ice, they have yet to find their identity. But let's get into it. They're 18th in the league in absolute points, 27 wins, 24 regulation losses, 9 overtime shootout losses. In the past 10 games, they're 6-3-1. It's their best 10-game block since the 30-game progress report. It's the second time in these 10-game blocks where they hit that 6-win number. In terms of point percentage, it's increased. They're 20th in the league in terms of point percentages. Goals for per game, still a bit low, still under 3, but slightly increased, pretty much stayed the same at 2.83 goals per game. Obviously, due to those two games against Vancouver and Chicago, where they won 2-1 both games, but they definitely were expected to score way more goals, and it turned out to be a blowout win. I called it. I said Utah's going to explode offensively against Minnesota. They score 6 goals there, so I expect the goals for per game to increase. Goals against per game has decreased, which is good. 14th in the league, so slightly above average in terms of goals allowed per game at 2.93. Power play, it's the highest it's ever been all season. It seems to be, I say that every 10-game block, and they're still reaching new heights. I thought it would have decreased. They went 0 for 5 against Chicago, and in that span between Vancouver and Chicago, they were 1 for 9, which is about 11% success rate, but it's still the highest it's been all season at 23.4%, 10th overall in the league is wonderful. Penalty kill, a slight decrease, but still about 12th in the league at 80.6%. They went 5 games straight before the Minnesota game of allowing 5 power play goals per in each of those 5 games. So definitely some work to do, but still it's holding on and doing its job and doing what it needs to do to give Utah every chance to win every night. Save percentage has increased a lot. They're still about slight at average in the league at 15th, but it's finally above that 900 save percentage, all due to Karel Vejmelka. We'll get to Vejmelka later, but great stuff there. 0.902 save percentage, up from 0.896 at the 50-game mark. Shooting percentage, it's way down. The lowest it's pretty much ever been under Andre Tourigny, and before that Minnesota game, it was in the 9s. So that Minnesota game where they score 6 goals definitely bumped it up to 10. But probably the only glaring issue right now for Utah is just get the puck across that red line. Everything else is great. The puck just needs to hit the mesh. And I don't know how to analyze that or go deep in analytics, but put the puck in the net. That's it. That's all you have to do. And they did it against Minnesota, and they tried to do it against Vancouver and Chicago, and all the numbers, the math say they should have scored more in those games, but in reality, only 2 goals in both those games. So it should be coming if they're playing consistently. The worst thing to do is to get frustrated and change your game, which I don't think Andre Tourigny and the team is going to do. They're very even keel, level-headed. They know they're playing their best hockey they've played all season now that they're finally all healthy. So just, you got to keep going. Don't move away from your game. Just keep doing what you're doing. Also, the defense, 1 goal in 3 straight games, 1 goal against in 3 straight games, 1 against Vancouver, Chicago, and Minnesota. So with a full healthy D-core, we're allowing a lot less goals per game. So you got to keep that up As well, shots on goal and shots on goal against. Finally, for the first time this season, the shots on goal for is above the shots on goal against. 28.3 shots per game for Utah. That's the highest it's been all season as well. 18th in the league. And shots on goal against, it's below 28, 13th in the league at 27.9. That's the lowest it's been all season as well. So a lot of things are going good for Utah. And in this down the stretch drive, only 22 games left in the season for Utah to be hitting their stride, playing their best hockey. That's what you love to see when you look at who they're playing against. Like Vancouver, definitely not playing their best hockey. Calgary, it's hanging on by their rookie goaltender, just dragging them into the playoff race. Anaheim's playing their best hockey too, and St. Louis has been up and down pretty much the whole season. So Utah seems to be one of the only teams getting better and better as the weeks and games are passing. So that's great to see in a tight playoff race. Faceoffs somehow stayed the exact same, and they're 12th in the league in faceoffs. For faceoffs, Kevin Stenlund at 59% on the faceoff dot. He is top 10 in the league, the whole league, in terms of face-off percentage. Hayden right behind him, slightly below 55%. Great to see Barrett Hayden's having himself a year. I really hope he eclipses all his career numbers in goals, assists, and points this season. McBain slightly above 50%, along with Alex Kerfoot. The only centerman below 50 is Logan Cooley, who's well below at about 44.5%. So for me, during the offseason, Logan Cooley had something to work on, is the faceoffs, and it's great that you have a bunch of teammates on your team to help teach you. And they brought in Blaine Forsyth a couple off seasons ago. He's coming from the Washington Capitals. He's their power play and faceoff coach. So we're starting to see the fruits of that labor, that Utah's starting to become a great faceoff team. And hits per game is going up. Still 30th in the league, which is low. I'm reading some rumors. Now that we're nearing the trade deadline, a lot of these reporters are leaking some info. Obviously, GMs are talking to each other. Some GMs leak info. I'm starting to hear that Bill Armstrong thinks they're a bit small in their forward core, which is fair and true. There's a lot of talk about Michelli being traded because he's been scratched. He doesn't fit that Bill Armstrong mold that I've been talking about consistently. And they just want to be bigger up front. So I do think that getting a big body forward might be the only thing they do for the trade deadline. And I think it's tough. I don't want to talk about in this video. There's so much good stuff. I don't want to go to the negative side. But definitely Michelli seems to be a trade piece. A young team looking for a passing talent could use a player like that. And in return, we get a big body forward that could slot in to that second line wing position. Right now, it's being held by Carconi. Last night, it was held by Kerfoot because Carconi was injured. So definitely a glaring hole on the second line wing position. And they need a player who's a big body, plays hard, hits hard, and could pot in a few goals here and there. But definitely reading that Bill Armstrong is not happy with the way of their size, of their hitting potential. That he wants them to be harder to play against. But still, it's great that their hitting is increased, probably due to Josh Stone being called up and playing 10 games in this 10-game block. So great stuff by Utah there. And we'll start to go to the individual stats led by the captain, Clayton Keller, 69 points in 60 games played. He is 2 assists away from hitting his career high in assists in 22 less games played. I feel like I'm taking him for granted. All this guy does is gobble up points and lead the team. He had 5 points, a career high against Minnesota last night. 22 goals, 47 assists for Keller. Him and Gunther are like battling for the team lead in goals. So great stuff by Keller and Gunther. Logan Cooley, who only played 3 games in this 10-game block due to his injury. He's second place on the team, 17 goals, 30 assists, 47 points. Nick Schmaltz, a lot of people just want to get rid of him, but he does so much good things, and love seeing Schmaltz get rewarded, love seeing Schmaltz happy, love seeing that chemistry between him and Keller, and now Cooley. Schmaltz third on the team, tied for second with 47 points in 60 games played. Dylan Guenther played 8 games out of this 10-game block, and he had 10 points in those 8 games. Clayton Keller had 15 points from games 50 to 60. Unbelievable point per game pace. Now that the games are getting more important and the fact that Keller's unlocking another gear, it's wonderful to see from these young players. But yeah, Guenther, 10 points in 8 games played, 22 goals, 22 assists, 44 points for Dylan Guenther. Nick Schmaltz had 7 points in the past 10 games, and Sergachev rounds out the team. A bit of a drop-off from Guenther to Sergachev, 10 goals, 28 assists, 38 points. He has, how many points did Sergachev have? Again, 7 points in the past 10 games. Other notable players, Barrett Hayden, 8 points in the past 10 games. He's heating up. He's turning a corner. And Josh Stone, 6 points in 10 games played in these past 10 games played. But I mentioned the drop-off from Guenther to Sergachev. It drops off slightly again from Sergachev to Hayden from 38 to 34 points. And then a significant drop-off from Hayden down to Kesselring with 23 points. And then from there, it's Michelli with 18 points below Kesselring. So it's Sergachev, then it's Hayden, then Kesselring, then Michelli with only 18 points. We need a lot more players with about 30 points. It's not too much to ask for. It's a half point per game pace, which is 40 points in a full season. Like 40 points isn't a lot. Guys like Krause, McBain, Bukestad, maybe even Kerfoot, they need 40 points per season. That's not a lot to ask for. Krause is getting paid to definitely be well over 40 points. Josh Stone, I'm sure if he played a full season, instead of being sent down, he would be near that 40 points, but definitely need a lot more secondary scoring moving forward. Some bad players in the past 10 games, I already mentioned them. Krause, only 2 points. McBain, only 2 points. Bukestad, only 2 points in the past 10 games. And Kerfoot, who played top-line center for 7 games, only 1 point in the past 10 games. Not that I expect a lot of points from Kerfoot. He does everything else amazing, so not going to harp on Kerfoot too much. So then we move on to the goaltending, and the leader of Team Ingram, that loyalty is definitely being tested. Vejmelka is just totally outplaying Ingram. He took the job. I love that Utah and the coaching staff is just choosing one goaltender. Vejmelka has played 3 straight games. Both goalies came back from the Four Nations break with rest. They gave the first game to Ingram against LA. Pretty poor performance, an .840 save percentage. And then a back-to-back against Vancouver. Vejmelka with a great performance, and 3 straight great performances by Vejmelka. Just outstanding goalie numbers, a .910 save percentage and a .244 goals against average. 16 wins on this season for Vejmelka. They're going to ride him. He's a starter now for Utah. Just hope he stays consistent. He's looking unbelievable. The best he's looked in his whole career. He's in his 4th NHL season now. I love the progression he's made. I love the confidence he has. He wants to win. He's playing solid. He's not moving around way too much. He's playing a bit more sound and purposeful like Ingram is. I mean, you look at the goalie opposite of him last night, Marc-Andre Fleury. He was all over the crease and the net, flopping around, just swimming in that blue crease. I haven't seen Vejmelka go for a swim in like 20 or 30 games. So I love Vejmelka's game. Ingram, his goalie numbers are pretty poor. So definitely need to ride Vejmelka, and hopefully he's up to the task. And with this new defense in front of the goalies, they're limiting a lot of high danger chances, keeping a lot of shots from the outside, and frankly, not allowing a lot of shots per game. I haven't complained about the amount of shots they've allowed. They allowed like 15 shots against Vancouver, 20 against Chicago, about 18 against Minnesota. So some great stuff there. And their shots per game. I'm never complaining about Utah shooting enough. They're shooting a lot more, which is probably why their shooting percentage has decreased. But everything seems to be clicking. Hopefully, barring a disaster, nothing happens. We got the trade deadline next week. Utah's put themselves in a position where maybe Bill Armstrong starts to buy and add. I'll do a trade deadline video Sunday, probably Monday. So I'm not going to get into that in this video. Just want to relish in these positive vibes. Everything's going well for Utah. So hopefully there's nothing nearing the corner, no disasters, and loving the entertainment by Utah and what they're providing to the fans. So that's it for me. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.